Welcome to Going Green. Water is the life source for the Coca-Cola company, the world's largest beverage firm. But treating wastewater and selling less plastic bottles is proving difficult. To talk to me about the future of the soft drinks business, I'm now joined by Bea Perez. She's the Sustainability Officer.
Thank you for having me here today.
Thanks a lot for being here.
Yes.
Now, for many people, the Coca-Cola company and sustainability cannot really go hand in hand. How can you reconcile both of them?
Well, you said something really important. Water is the lifeblood of our business, but it's also the lifeblood for people. And we look at what's important to people and to society because we know we don't exist with a business if things aren't good for society. And we take that responsibility very seriously. So many years ago, we set goals around water to become water neutral. And we did it. We achieved those goals 5 years ahead of schedule. Hundreds of projects are at every local community, partnerships with the World Wildlife Fund. All these different organizations helped us to get there. And that taught us that we could go even further. And so we also focus on World Without Waste, which is how do we think about, if we know water's an important ingredient, we have to distribute our drinks in a form of a package. We have to be mindful of what are the packages made out of, how can we ensure that we're designing in sustainability, 100% recycled materials, making sure that we're using bioplastics and new innovation technologies. We just recently opened up our IP, so intellectual property on plant bottle technology, even to our competition to say, this is good for the world and good for the industry. Let's make sure it's available. It's really great though designing in, but for society, if we're not collecting back those packages and taking them out of the waste systems and then trying to get them to be reused or properly managed, then it's really difficult for society as well.
So now the World Without Waste program, right? It actually aims to collect and recycle all the bottles and
100%.
100%
Yes.
by the year 2030.
Yes.
How is this possibly possible?
Yes. With a lot of partnerships. So we need to make sure that we're partnering with other businesses, with governments, and also with the NGOs and civil society. And we found that it can be done. So since our chairman and CEO, or chairman-elect and CEO, James Quincy launched this initiative last year here in Davos, we've already gotten to build some programs where in 4 countries, we already have our water bottles in 100% recycled PET. So that means we collected the bottles, we put them back in to create the new bottles. And so we were able to create a neutral waste system there, which was highly effective. And we've also looked at other programs, for example, in Mexico. There's a consortium there with our bottling business where they help to take the informal collection process and formalize it and help drive income for the informal collectors because now they had a place to sell the material and then we could then reuse it, and that model's expanding as well.
But recycling 100%, right? It sounds incredibly good on paper.
It's good and it's difficult.
90%, absolutely, it is a very ambitious target, and reports show that we're not even close because you aim to reach this goal by 2030.
Well, so the reality is we just did our evaluation. We're at 59% of the way there towards the goal. However, getting to 100% from there, that's what's enormously difficult because in many countries the infrastructure doesn't exist. So we have to build.
What needs to be done now, Bea? What are some of the logistics, infrastructure, supply chains that need to be built?
Yes, well, we need to make sure that there's actually waste collection systems. We need to make sure that when the informal collectors are collecting it, that there's somewhere to take it so it can be reused. And companies like Coke have to be willing to purchase it to bring it back into our supply system as well. So creating that circular value chain, the circular economy where people are making money along the value chain. We're creating jobs, creating income. At the same time, we're creating value for society by starting to eliminate the plastic pollution issue.
Where do you think does this push for more sustainability come from? Is it pressure from the consumers or from the investors and shareholders?
Well, what's interesting, and I like to tell this story, so even though I was the company's first chief sustainability officer and I was appointed in 2011, the reality is I did my own evaluation and found that we'd been doing it since day one. Companies like Coke have always had sustainability front and center. It was just called something else. It was called community. It might have called environmental science. And what I found interesting was what was missing is that business had not incorporated into business metrics, into compensation plans, and that investors weren't giving companies a lot of credit for it. And so we worked really hard to focus on, you may be hearing about this ESG, so it's really important. Institutional investors have just said, we are watching what consumers want. 62% of consumers have said, I want brands to help me make a difference in this world. So brands who are doing that are going to see the value and the growth come from that. The brands who don't, they have work to do. But the institutional investors are now giving companies credit. So I feel fortunate because I work for a company that has always had it as part of our value structure. However, we can still improve and do better, which is why we're also looking at how can we do new things to make sure we're meeting societal needs and being responsible with the environment. And so it's a journey. It's a journey we'll be on forever, but I'm proud to say that it's actually been how we were born as a company.
Your job title, Sustainability Officer, is a whole new job creation.
Yes.
Do you see a lot of multinationals taking the same direction now?
Yeah, so when I first got into this role in 2011, there were only 19 Chief Sustainability Officers, and titles were slightly different through the Fortune 500, and today there's over 100 of them. So it's growing. It's now reporting to the CEO in many cases, and you're starting to see board of directors create subcommittees. We also have a subcommittee of our board that pays attention to sustainability and gets an annual review. And you're seeing more and more of that.
It is estimated, Bea, that by 2030 the demand for water will outpace water supply by 40%. How can we make sure that we better treat wastewater and have more water supplies in the world, especially in the poor regions?
Yes, water definitely remains one of the world's top risks, and we have to be mindful of it. And so we continue with our programs. Even though we met our goal, we set 5 years ahead of schedule, we didn't stop. We said we have to continue to do more. That's protecting watersheds. You have to start there. That natural source of water, and some individuals over time have had great intentions in planting different types of plants around to protect the water, but some places, for example in the Rio Grande, they found that actually some of the plants that were there actually were depleting the water. So they had to go in, and we had an initiative there in the US where we actually cleaned it up and we replanted the things that would protect the water. It's also making sure that when you're using water, you bring it back in and you recycle it. So how do you recycle and reuse it and make sure that you're getting that same water 2 and 3 times in your business where you're almost down to zero waste? And it's really important, but also consumers taking actions too. I mean, growing up, I used to remember the commercials where people would say, turn off the faucet while you brush your teeth. I almost think we need to get back to basics like that again too.
You also have another ambitious goal, which is to cut the CO2 embedded
Yes.
in your drinks by 13% and boost energy efficiency by 2%.
So
How
it's,
can
so
you
it's
reach
actually
that?
reduce the carbon of the drink in your hand by 25%.
25
That,
even,
that's the goal. We're
big.
at 13% today, and it's across our whole value chain. So think about everything from transportation to the manufacturing of our products. It's everything that goes into the business. And so that's why it's a 25% reduction. I will tell you this, so we have
But
some...
is it realistic, Bea?
It is realistic. So these problems in this world can be solved through technology, partnership, innovations. We can do these. Now, maybe some of the timing that we put out there may or may not be realistic. In some cases, we can meet the goals ahead of schedule, then we have to do more. And in other cases, we might get to that timeline we set and realize we're so close, but we have to do more. And we shouldn't get upset over that. We should keep going and partner with people to get it done.
Packaging is another big headache, right, for the environment as well. Now you plan to use more plant bottles, which are made 30% out of plants. How is that push going?
So it's going well, and so plant bottle is what we've opened up to others because we want to make sure we can bring the price points down so more people can use it because it reduces the carbon emissions as well. But I'd say it's not just plant bottle. We're looking at all sorts of materials. So when we collect the bottles, we want to increase the amount of recycled PET that we use back into the bottle. That's also just as efficient. And then we're not even sure what other technologies are going to come. So we also have our R&D and innovation labs looking at what else is coming that would be more responsible. And just to put this out there, we also look at packageless delivery systems. Who's to say that at some point in time you can't get a beverage without a package? So just think about it. We have to dream big.
So how would this happen? Because right now we use Coke bottles and cans. So will we in the future drink from tanks?
Well, so we have an equipment called Freestyle, and so we have over 50,000 of those units around the world, mostly in the United States, but you can get over 200 drinks of your choice out of it. It's a phenomenal business. Imagine in the future, and we have some pilots going on where you bring your one container that actually maybe has, information for you, and that's the one you drink everything out of, and you take that and that's what you use. So you don't have to create new bottles, new packages, but it's yours personalized and that's what you use. And so then it's a shared accountability. So that's not 100% packageless, but if you start to move in that direction, you can get very close to being there.
Now today, here at the World Economic Forum, we get offered free Cokes and other soft drinks, for examples, in cans or in glass. What is the most environment-friendly way nowadays to have a soft drink?
Well, recycled PET is still one of the most environmentally friendly because you can bring it back into the value system. So you can use it again and again and again, and it has value. You know, the other ones are also just as good. Aluminum is equally just as recycled. Glass is also recyclable. It depends where you are in which country, which one has better infrastructure. So we have a portfolio of packages that we use, but I would say that our technical people continue to tell me PET is still today the friendliest.
A lot of consumers are calling for more transparency and disclosure when it comes to ingredients and packaging and so on. How can you bring them more transparency?
Well, we started to work on transparency over the last several years, and we publish as much as we can on our websites, and we try to give people the facts. We've uncovered where are we today on our goals and how much work do we have to do to get there. That was a little scary in the beginning for a big corporation to do it, but it is part of our value system. And we said we need to share this information because maybe there are people who have innovations that if they knew where we were, they could come and be our partners and help us. And also it's the accountability. We have to hold our business units accountable to do this work, and so we have to put the data out there, and we scorecard it, and that gets shared with our board of directors as well.
Now, you claim to be a very fresh company, obviously, but it's not easy to change the mindset and the organization, right? The thinking inside the company. How difficult has it been?
Well, I'll say this. So culture typically starts with the top, and we have a chairman-elect and CEO who's coming in who has grown up in Europe. This is part of how he's lived his life. He firmly believes that we have to do the right things in our business to be a good business. And so good business equals good growth for our business. People will want to purchase our brands if we do the right things. I'd also say that when you look at our employee population, our own associates, we have 4 generations in the workplace. All the generations care about different things. The younger generations are pushing companies harder and harder, and we find that we're able to recruit and retain associates because of the work we do, and they'll always volunteer to jump on these extra projects. And so we have had people who maybe it's not their day-to-day job, but they have a friend of a friend who's interested in volunteering or has a technology, and they'll bring it in, and we've created a forum for dialogue with our associates.
At this moment in time, about 422 million people in the world suffer from diabetes. How is the Coca-Cola company planning to address the sugar challenge?
So with James Quincy, when he came in as CEO, he signed up for the World Health Organization guidelines. So we believe that too much sugar, too much added sugar is not good for people. And so how do we make sure that we're educating people on what's in our brands? And so we have full transparency on our cans, on our packaging. And we also make sure that we're offering up great tasting Coke, but with no sugar. And so how do we do that? So we launched Coke Zero Sugar. And you see a lot of our brands today, over half of our portfolio has no sugar. And so we're following what the consumers want, and we're very mindful that these are real issues and we need to be a part of the solutions.
What kind of new drinks, in that case, can we expect from the Coca-Cola company in the next couple of years?
Well, it depends what the consumers want, right? And so we follow the consumer. They'll tell us what drinks we're going to be producing. At the same time, you've probably seen us do some acquisitions over in the last year. So we continue to look at what do people want in their regional areas, what are the flavor profiles, what are they saying they need, and that's what we're going after to produce and create.
Talking about acquisitions, does it mean that you would plan to acquire some organic drink companies as well, or maybe cannabis drinks or whatever there is in the market?
Well, in terms of organic, so Honest Tea is one of our brands, and it's an organic brand. And so it's been an amazing business for us in the U.S., and it's really grown it. It's Honest Tea, Honest Kids brands, and no sugar for the kids' drinks. It's really an amazing brand, and we found that has done very well. And that's where we're going to go. We're going to keep following the consumer.
Let's talk about the money angle as well. How much does this shift towards sustainability cost a multinational like the Coca-Cola company?
Well, we look at it, not what does it cost us today to get it right, it's what's the cost of not doing it. The cost of not doing this will be more expensive than anything we spend today to do this the right way for our business. We want to be around for 200 years. And so for us, it's important to factor that in.